everybody and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I'm Flowerdilly. I mostly play horror games and indie games and talk about topics around their respective media. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is part 2 of my Left4Dead ARG analysis, so if you haven't watched the first part, I really recommend you go watch that, since a lot of the second part does reference back to the first. I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite surprised at how many of you managed to actually tolerate that last video, considering how I probably sounded like MatPat trying to count all of the FNAF animatronics' toes when mentioning the dates 2009 and 2015 on repeat. I also greatly apologise for the number of times I said this is interesting in that video, because oh my lord, I said it a lot. I think I just ran out of words because by the time I got to day 3, my vocabulary cut out and I was struggling to find words to put in the script. But alas, I'm back due to request, and I'm going to do a small recap for those of you who don't want to go back and watch the other video. So far, what we've had is the introduction of Steras and Whisperers, along with this new type of infected that we don't know about yet. Also, we have been introduced to our second game characters, Rochelle, Nick, Ellis and Coach, and we've learned about 2 instances that have happened in Liberty Mall, one to a Stera and a second to something else. We also get a better idea of what the green flu is and what Cedar does know about it so far. Now that the recap is over, I don't want to talk about episode 1 just yet. What I do want to talk about is this quick 35-second video called Burger Tank. In this video, we seem to be getting the point of view of a doctor working at Cedar. This is because when the video first starts, we get this text on the screen. Been working at the hospital for days now. While on shift, I thought to myself, why don't I get some fast food? After this text, we then get a shot of a burger, some fries, and a drink with the date September 4th, 2009 on the top corner of the screen. We then see a picture of the doctor taken on the exact same day, who looks awfully happy while he eats his burger and fries. Additionally, we get a YouTube URL in the captions. Now before we get into the URL, more words appear on the screen. Got a double bacon burger combo, gonna have to burn this off later. I forgot how good Burger Tank is, yet also how unhealthy it is. I'm gonna try not to make that a habit. It may be pretty hard not to. That's the end of the video, and we're now going to look into this YouTube URL. When you put this into a search bar, you're greeted with this video, the video being called Fairfield Whisper Encounter 12 Update 02. It starts with some text on the screen that I'm going to read out now. The infected Sebastian Kingsman has been apprehended after attacking a patroller. This is the first time ever that a Whisperer special infected is willing to cooperate with us. He is not completely gone, humanity still resides somewhere within him. Questioning has been scheduled for the non-distant future. Media in relation to Kingsman will be released as well throughout the clearing of Fairfield. Most of it being part of the Mercy Hospital Evac Centre. We get another URL in the caption of this video. From what we can tell, Sebastian Kingsman seems to be the doctor in our Burger Tank video, and it also seems that he's turned into a whisperer. Surprisingly enough, from what we've been told in this video, he seems somewhat sentient, holding on to whatever is left of his humanity. This could suggest that many of the people who are infected still have a consciousness, which is not a very pleasant thought. Moving on, when you go to this URL, you're greeted with another YouTube channel. This is not the Cedar one, but instead one run by Sebastian Kingsman himself. His bio reads, "My name is Sebastian Kingsman. I work for Cedar under the HVTF, and I'm a happy family man, a spiritual member of the Midnight Riders, and a person with a love for nature." Below that is a URL to the Cedar YouTube channel. I also would like to mention that it says here that Kingsman is actually a part of the HVTF. As we all know from watching season 1, the HVTF is the Health and Viral Task Force, the one sent to Fairfield, Pennsylvania to sort out evacuations and help people in need. Anyway, since there are only 4 videos here, I'm just going to quickly go over them, starting with infomercial talk. This video is a quick one with a Midnight Rider song playing in the background while he talks about how you can't even see his face in the infomercial he was in. This doesn't really provide much information because 1, we don't know what this infomercial is even about, and 2, we have no idea what he's even doing there to begin with. We can just move on from this one to the next video, that being It's Mutated. This is again another text video, but it's eerily silent as Kingsman talks about how the virus is mutated. He doesn't know how it changed so quickly and mentions that he has seen the horrors of it happening firsthand. After that, we see a shot of a door that glitches out, and that's the end of that video. We then move on to the third one on the channel called Mustard. This video starts off with Sebastian Kingsman talking about how the only thing keeping him sane during this time is his burger tank, which is fair because fast food is a cure to all souls. But there is one problem with his meal he bought. They left the mustard on. After this, the preppy music that was there is long gone. There is now an eerie silence as it feels like something is breathing down our neck. He talks about how now he can't even enjoy a simple burger as he's stuck in this office building with a bunch of so-called freaks upstairs. that being the infected they've put in quarantine. He mentions how the clock ticking reminds him of how they are all on borrowed time. The video ends, Kingsman's final comment is about how the mustard ruined his mood more than it already was, and we see a shot of him. That concludes the third video. Now moving on to the last one, which is called Blackout. We start off with the Cedar logo in the background as text appears on the screen saying 15 minutes before the blackout. As the words disappear, we're greeted by a camera view of a room with the woman inside. She looks like an average office worker and seems to be completely okay from behind. She sits on the bed, completely unfazed. When the screen fades to black, we get more words saying 2 minutes into the blackout. The camera view comes back, except now it's really dark and scary. The office worker is standing there, her white shirt covered in blood. As the camera view points up, the only light emitting from it shines on her face, revealing two beady glowing eyes. As we now know, she is infected. The word leak then appears on the screen and we get what seems to be a shot of a darkened doorway. But that's it for now for Dr. Kingsman's channel. And with that, we're going to move on to episode 1 of season 2, the episode being called Quarantine. Curing the infection one bullet at a time. Epic Mercy Hospital tagline reference. So from this intro we can already tell this is set in 2015. The main goal for Cedar now is to kill the infected to get rid of the virus. We then get this shot of Mercy Hospital as text appears on the screen. The following is 1 out of 3 media that comprises the Fairfield log, showcasing the early stages of the green flu outbreak in the city of Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Majority of which relate to Kingsman. All media has been organised into chronological order. More knowledge about Kingsman should be obtainable before scheduled questions through these means. 2 more phrases pop on the screen, but they're too fuzzy and glitchy for us to read them via the naked eye, so I took the liberty of slowing them down and pausing them. It says here for the first one, being knowledgeable is important, and the second point says, we don't know what we have installed. So far what this tells us is that they're going to interview Kingsman and that there was information logged about the early stage of the outbreak in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. We also now know that there was a possibility of them having the intention of clearing out Mercy Hospital. Now I have a feeling this will be no easy feat and there might be a few casualties considering what happened in Liberty Mall. But when we move on to an FPD police report, which is amazingly animated by the way, I recommend you go watch it, text appears on the screen stating that this is 2 hours since the mutation had started. We get a shot of a police officer smoking next to one of his colleagues before text appears on the screen. Date, August 30th, 2009. Time, 7:41 PM. Address, 13 Barn Pleasant Avenue. Olivia Harmony, an employee at Annex Finance, contacted emergency services to report a co-worker suddenly attacking other individuals inside the office. The suspect inflicted major injuries onto numerous co-workers at the building. After a struggle with multiple employees, they were able to lock the suspect in a supply closet. Olivia seemed to emphasize the fact the suspect in question was not herself, as they seemed to have been suffering from a sickness. We made sure to contact Fairfield Cedar Department to have a look at the situation. Shortly after their arrival, the building was placed on quarantine. This segment seems to be a regular account of what happened the day the mutation of the green flu outbreak in Fairfield occurred. It features the same office worker who was mentioned in season 1 during the tape about the green flu. We then get the next few shots, which are of Cedar agents walking around the now quarantined building. Then we get a shot of a door with a few dents in it, clearly showing that the infected was trying to escape with great force. Following that is a segment of the Viral and Health Task Force investigative logs, where we learn that the leader of this task force was none other than Sebastian Kingsman himself. The tape proceeds with the investigative log. After receiving a request from the Fairfield Police Department, we arrived on scene at 13 Pleasant Avenue in front of Annex Finance. We were briefed about a suspect that seemed to exhibit rabies-like symptoms and attack their co-workers. Eyewitnesses state that the suspect, a young man in his early 20s, seemed to have had a mild cold while entering the building and turned extremely violent several hours later. Due to us never seeing such an aggressive form of rabies before, we have decided to quarantine the building as a safety precaution. Individuals that have received an exchange of body fluids with suspects are now receiving medical treatment within the building. With the situation inside the building under control, it's time to check on the suspect who remains inside the supply closet. All attempts to communicate with the suspect from outside the room have turned up futile. Division Investigating Leader Sebastian Kingsman has volunteered to go inside the supply closet with the protection of the FPD officer in an attempt to communicate with the suspect. Protective measures have been taken to avoid the exchange of fluids from the suspect. So here again we get the mention of rabies-like symptoms, which is also mentioned back in the green flu tapes in season 1. These seem to be just repeats of some of the information we already know, until we learn that Sebastian actually offered to go inside the supply closet with protection. We proceed to get some shown footage of Kingsman's body cam. Kingsman enters the room. Blood seems to be splattered in a few areas and it's incredibly dark. Next to him is a police officer by the name of Wilson Green, and we hear an almost painful heaving in the background, like somebody can't exactly catch their breath. It's both disturbing and off-putting as we see Dr. Kingsman's point of view turn up and his flashlight point at the infected individual. They appear to be limping, unable to keep themselves balanced before text appears on the screen.
Once suspect was located, attempts to communicate were made. Suspect responded with hostility.
We then see footage of Dr. Kingsman's body cam again as the infected woman turns around and yells at him in an unintelligible manner with blood dripping down her face. She then jumps at him, the body cam glitching as the screen turns red and black, giving this horrible appearance to her face. Her face is then redacted and we hear a gunshot in the background. We then get more text.
Suspect has been neutralized.
The episode moves on and we see more words on the screen explaining how this is now 5 hours after the mutation. This is quite a speedy stretch considering how long it sometimes takes for viruses to mutate in real time.
After several tests to confirm validity, it turns out the infection Ms. Ravaka was suffering from was not rabies, but was in fact green flu. We knew GF09 was an extremely mutated pathogen, but jumping from a cold to a rabies-tier disease should be a scientific impossibility. I'm afraid of 3 things. This mutation of the green flu may still have extreme infectivity of its predecessor, possibly making everyone in this building who is not wearing protective measures infected with this new strain. 2, if my first statement stands, I am afraid that everyone infected will lose their higher critical thinking, possibly losing their sanity altogether as they bleed from the inside out. I cannot bear to think about what Miss Ravaka must have gone through in her office. 3, and if my following 2 statements stand correct, we may have found this mutation too late.
Now, from these accounts, we know that the first victim of the mutation in Fairfield, Pennsylvania was neutralized and tested on. Kingsman now believes they may have found this new mutation far too late. We also get confirmation that everyone else in the building might possibly be infected if they didn't have their protective gear on. The video then ends, leaving us to move on to none other than episode 2. Now for episode 2, Decomposition, we have a 20-minute video. This is quite long, so there might be a lot to go through with this one. Moving on, we start off with a clock ticking in the background. Dr. Kingsman sits at his desk, thinking about Mr. Varco, the woman who was shot in the office building due to her infection. The phone rings in the background, Dr. Kingsman looks up, and the scene cuts to a tape segment. This tape segment is the exact same training video we see in season 1, just a lot more shaky now and much more dark and distorted. It obviously seems as though it's been played a couple times, and it's now been watched by someone new. Before we can see who's watching this tape, we get cut to a news report about 5.5 hours after the mutation. In this news report, we hear information that we already know about a person attacking their co-workers in the finance building. We then begin to learn that people are speculating this is due to the green flu virus, which is correct. Finally, we see shots of police officers and Dr. Kingsman, as it says they refuse to give any statements on the matter. For the next section of the episode, we get a few shots of the outside, including a vending machine and a bloody door next to a cedar backpack and an infected. We then get what seems to be a sort of refurbished office room, which has medical beds and healing supplies. This is soon labelled as a makeshift med bay.
There was no helping them. Their fates were already sealed. They now stumble through the halls, losing themselves. Their minds are decomposing. The air is decomposing.
Time is decomposing.
The segment ends and we're met with an epic title card screen.
The following is the second of 3 media files that comprise the Fairfield log, showcasing the early stages of the green flu outbreak in the city of Fairfield, Pennsylvania. The majority of this content relates to Kingsman. All media has been loosely organised into chronological order. Information on Kingsman will be possible through this method.
Following this, we then see Nick watching a staticky TV with a bored expression on his face, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. What he appears to be watching are the Viral and Health Task Force team logs. Annex Quarantine Log 17. The following is for Cedar employees or authorized officials. Informing unauthorized parties is strictly prohibited. This first log seems to have been made on August 31st, 2009 at around 1:04 AM.
The contagion that Livia Harmony Havoc had contracted now seems to have been confirmed as green flu. But it's not the version of GFO9 that we are familiar with. This seems to be a new variant. It's a good thing we quarantined the building when we did. We were unsure if the variant is the same infectious potential as the original. After Dr. Kingsman's encounter with Livia, he was sent back to Mercy Hospital for minor injuries and to start studying samples. Kingsman is one of the best virologists Cedar has in its ranks. His efforts should not be wasted on maintaining a simple quarantine. Although having direct contact with the contagion shouldn't be a reason to have him be a part of the quarantine, he was taking protective measures to prevent infection. Even with the knowledge of green flu's extreme mutation rate, this is simply unexplainable. A few workers in the building are now starting to complain about the possible GFO9 symptoms. We can't let them know what might happen to them. After that unsettling scene, we then see that Cedar has now decided to let the new strand of green flu become public knowledge due to the growing speculation on what's going on with it. We then see a title card saying 4 days after mutation, and then see a professional public statement made by Cedar for the public. They start by making sure to let everyone know that this is a high stakes virus and that precautions need to be made, including wearing face masks, washing hands, and avoiding contact with infected individuals. Jeez, where have I had that one before?
Barricade your homes. Avoid all contact with infected individuals. Wait for official instructions. Wait my ass.
Kill all sons of bitches. That's my official instructions.
They also tell people who are infected to stay home. It is quite humorous, the fact that we now know the virus becomes airborne eventually, so these precautions do little to nothing to stop the spread as they hope. They then tell the public that if they're infected or showing symptoms as seen in the green flu tape, be sure to call the Cedar hotline. They thank the public for their cooperation in advance before the police logo from before pops up on the screen.
At 7:31 PM, we received a 911 call at 23 Stone Road reporting a severely injured woman on the second floor of the apartment building. The woman was unresponsive, lying in front of an open apartment door that had a trail of blood leading inside of it. The caller noted that they heard a weird groaning coming from inside the apartment. Because this sounds like another instance of the new GFO9 variant, we've notified Cedar and sent adequate personnel to the scene. This is going to be the 6th quarantine of the day. Day after day, more and more people are getting infected with this new variant. It's getting to the point that we are unsure if we'll be able to prevent the sincerity of this new variant from leaking to the public.
He hasn't been responding to any calls. Anthony says he's fine, but this is not like Ricardo. I know that even when Ricardo is busy, he always answers the phone or calls me back. I'm going to check up on him. I've not been here in forever. Here is his apartment.
Ricardo, are you okay? It's me, Ma. If you don't open this door right now, I'm going to use the spare keys to get inside. Hello?
Mama, please help me. I can't control myself.
This account ends with him saying he can't control the urge anymore and that his mind is decomposing. The screen fades to black as he calls out for his mother, and we can now tell this is exactly what happened to the woman in the apartment mentioned in the police file. It gives both a sad and desperate outlook on what the apocalypse is really like in this universe. The fun zombie shooting Left4Dead we all know and play to be badass zombie killers has now been switched into its more empathetic side, giving us a serious emotional outlook on what's really going on in this apocalypse. Pure tragedy.
By the time Cedar got there, the woman was long dead. Her name was Maria Chavez, and the infected individual turned out to be her son Ricardo Chavez. The standard protocols such as quarantining the building and contact tracing is being handled by Cedar with the assistance of the FPD. We had no choice but to use lethal force against the suspect as he began charging towards the first responders on scene. These last 4 days have been rough.
We then see a glitchy tape about Mercy Hospital, explaining how it's the only Cedar centre within the city that offers both evacuations as well as quarantine, unlike the others which only offer the latter.
Mercy, Fairfield's #1 hospital. Cedar is determined they will not be able to maintain the quarantine they have set up for much longer. Many of the quarantines are falling into chaos as infected patients overwhelm the staff, with the Annex quarantine being a brutal and prime example of this. In collaboration with Cedar, we will be transforming floors of this hospital into a Cedar Centre. We will offer supplies, shelter and information about the new strain of green flu, as it inevitably spreads beyond quarantine buildings, including evacuations if necessary. Along with centre preparations, Dr. Kingsman and many other agents have been working tirelessly to study and examine the GF09 pre- and post-mutation. They have recently witnessed a case study of an individual that was brought in infected with a new variant. Here are the findings. Davidson Porter was an individual who was brought into Mercy Hospital infected with the green flu pathogen. As procedure, we documented everything that happened to him once he was directed to the GF09 care floor. Davidson's infection was like none had ever seen or reported before. Davidson at this point is in the docile stage of GF09, complaining about headaches, a runny nose, stomach aches and extreme nausea. He also began to experience a frequent amount of absence seizures. We have given anti-seizure medication to help stop the seizures, but they continue to persist. His mental state is degenerating rapidly. Davidson reported the worsening of cramps and pain in his abdominal region, along with an indescribable nausea he felt. Davidson's body started to bloat up and he started to vomit large loads of bile uncontrollably, and he began to lose his sanity. Along with his bloated appearance, balls seemed to cover the majority of his body. Whenever we try to enter Davidson's room, he attempts to project vomit on us. When he vomits, all the other infected in the floor begin to react erratically, attempting to break out of their restraints in rooms. Through observation, Davidson seems unusually passive and less erratic than a typical infected. He also only seems to get aggressive once he's prepared to vomit once again. When he does, he resumes a semi-passive state, even towards non-infected. For some unknown reason, the green flu mutated Davidson into a vomit factory. It is certain that his bile is filled to the brim with the virus. Davidson seems to be compelled to vomit on any non-infected he sees in order to spread the virus. It is unclear how he is able to produce such an extreme amount of bile in such little time. It is also unclear if this is a mutation that happened by chance or if there is a specific set of parameters that encourage this mutation. We will continue to look out for more instances or new instances of a major mutation within the Greenfoot infected.
So now we have the introduction of our well-known and certainly not beloved Boomer. For anyone who does not know, a Boomer is a special infected within the game that projectile vomits onto players to hinder their vision and attract hordes who will then attack the survivor who has been vomited on. They also explode when shot, producing the same outcomes if the survivors are too close. This is quite fascinating because at this point of time we know that Stera does not know why these mutations are happening among such an infected. We don't know if it's just because the virus is changing and it will happen to a bunch of other people, or if it's because there are certain things a person needs to have before they get this mutation. Moving on from this, we then get an audio clip which I will not put in this video. If you do want to watch it, please click on the account below and look at the season 2 playlist the creator has on the channel. Trust me, you need to watch the original, it is amazing, so please go do that. In this audio file, we seem to get an insight from Dr. Kingsman. We don't learn much from this besides the fact it's been 6 days since the Annex incident, the incident that happened in the office building in Fairfield, Pennsylvania, which has been mentioned a lot through these tapes. He also mentions that he's been studying the original version of the green flu before it mutated, and he's holding place in a temporary office at Mercy Hospital to do further research. As the audio goes on, we begin to figure out how he can't get one certain night out of his head and how it's basically traumatized him. I'm speculating that this night is possibly the one where the first infected in the office building got shot in front of Dr. Kingsman when it tried to attack him, but it could mean something else. He also mentions wanting to go home to his wife and kids, but not wanting to leave his co-workers behind who seem to be looking up to him. He doesn't want to leave in bad impression, and he knows that they're just as afraid as he is. He also brings to light that he knows all the infected have a little bit of humanity left inside of them, some more than others, while bringing brief mention to the police account we heard earlier in the episode where the mother gets attacked by her own son. That's all we learn for now, so without further ado, let's move on. An emergency warning plays through the speakers as we get shots of the streets of Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Cars tilted over and abandoned, rain filling the area, and a single infected standing on the street, his silhouette being illuminated by a single light. After this shot, we get a glimpse of a silhouette, which could possibly be Nick, as we saw him earlier. Sorry, Sergeant, still looking and sorting through the stuff that relates to Kingsman. That's all you're going to be able to view for right now. You do have to admit, this compilation had way more useful info than the last one. I'll be able to pull together one last thing for you to view before the interview next week. If you're already prepared to check out some locations, you know where to find me. And that is the end of episode 2, everybody. Gosh, it was a long one. Before all our brains melt into disgusting acidic mush that the spitter would oh so love, let's recap. Around this part of the timeline, we now know that the air is a form of transferring the virus, or at least it's beginning to be. We also know that Kingsman has been found, although he is infected, and there will be an interview for him. We get more mentions of Nick and see accounts of green flu, like the account of the mother and the son from the Chavez family, and we see a few tapes from Dr. Kingsman. We also get our first mention of the Boomer, another OG game special infected, so we now have collected, like Pokemon cards, both the Smoker and the Boomer mentions. That is interesting to note. And with that, let's move on to episode 3. Now, episode 3, called Liberty Escape, is only 12 minutes long, so don't worry, this section might be a lot shorter than the last one. We get the new 2015 Cedar introduction, which has been quite common throughout season 2, and we start off with our first audio file. In this audio file, we're greeted with Rochelle from our Left4Dead 2 crew. We know this because 1, she introduces herself, and 2, she appears on screen sitting at a desk in front of a radio. After introducing herself, she mentions that she is a major official, specifically the head of communications for Operation Exterminations. This means she's been placed alongside Coach in more or less the communications and care aspect of these missions, which I'm assuming is going to be the opposite for Alice and Nick. She explains how footage is about to be shown that was recovered from Liberty Mall after the bombing. What I'm assuming is that after the first 2 incidents that happened in Liberty Mall, one with our soldiers David and Xavier and the other with the 20 soldiers that got absolutely murked, they must have put a full force bombing on the mall to possibly and hopefully get rid of anything that was in there. She explains how this gives listeners an opportunity to see the full layout of the building now that it's been bombed. It provides an opportunity to analyze and document observations along with findings about the special infected that have inhabited the building, specifically the Steras and this new infected which has not been named yet. She then brings insight to the fact that before the Liberty incident there had only been a handful of reports and sightings of potential new infected that had somewhat similar descriptions to the ones we see in these incidents. This could explain the safe room tape in season 1 episode 1 where they mentioned Steras and the fact there was one in a failed safe room before the tape had cut out. Rochelle continues by explaining that the reason they hadn't looked into these Stera encounters is because the number of accounts reported were few and far between, and there were much more important important matters. We're not sure what these important matters are yet, but they must have been significant to justify ignoring a giant droopy monster that had been ripping people to shreds. But alas, she goes into saying these Steras have possibly been the cause of multiple disappearances of soldiers over the past few months leading up to this recording. And now we're left with the question, have they really cleared out all the places they thought they'd cleared out, or are the Steras still living amongst them?
Footage captured by Malik Summers, one of the 20 people who attempted to clear Liberty. Initial observations and theories will be revealed once viewing has concluded. We will review some older footage before examining new footage. This SI was the infected that wiped out most of the members of the clearing squad. This infected that we have dubbed Cause was responsible for 8 of the deaths after that incident. We still don't know for sure the exact relationship between this special infected and the others of the nest, although we do have theories that will be expanded on later. Deceased. Carlton Watkins attempting to defend himself against ASI we have now dubbed Steras. From all the different perspectives we have been able to recover so far, there seem to be 11 special infected visible in this encounter. This is the other type of SI that had a strong presence in the mall. This is also the same infected that killed David and Xavier. We will now begin viewing new footage.
Members of the clearing unit panically dispersed after their comrades fell victim to the SI at the mall. Malik chose to hide after running out of ammunition. We then get shown footage of Malik's body cam as he hides in one of the rooms in the mall, with the door open and nothing really holding him back from being seen. This ends up being a problem when our new infected dubbed Claws looms over him. He gets directly into Malik's face, looking awfully disgusting, may I add. Can someone please get this guy some cream or foundation? Because oh my god, he is red to 9 hells. He looks burnt as hell. But before Malik gets absolutely destroyed by this thing, he pulls out what seems to be a stun grenade and sets it off. The next shot we see is him running away from the infected as he runs into a safe room. One that should be very familiar for those of you who've played Left4Dead, as this is a safe room between the gun store and the mall itself. He looks around and sees a rather unfortunate individual, at least what's left of him, before the Claws attempts to reach through the safe room window. Now personally, there is no way ever that I'm dealing with that. I don't care what else is on the other side of the second safe room door, but I'm getting the hell out of there. If I see that, not only am I calling for backup, I am opening that bar and walking out, because the more doors between me and that thing, the better. But alas, Malik decides to get backup.
Malik then contacted the Operation Extermination Emergency Hotline. Rochelle Yates herself was the operator who picked up.
We then hear the contact between Rochelle and Malik. Malik is very panicked and angry, as anyone would obviously be in the situation, and Rochelle tells him to calm down. He mentions how everyone else is injured and he's stuck in a safe room with a damaged arm. He asks for backup, which Rochelle denies, saying that sending another 20 soldiers in there would do absolutely nothing. Instead, they come up with a plan for him, to figure out exactly where he is, get to the front entrance safely, and meet up with more soldiers.
Malik Summers took a second to compose himself, and then he began to make his way through the building in his injured state.
Okay, where am I?
He walks out the safe room and out into the mall. The store he's in is very recognizable, considering it's a toy store from the first campaign when we're all in the mall. The window's already shot and broken, presumably from when our favourite 4 went through and triggered the alarm, so it's a good thing he doesn't have to worry about that anymore at least. He mentions needing to be stealthy and that he's going to get in trouble and killed if he encounters something besides a common infected. His stealthiness, however, does become quite infuriating, considering how he seems to be talking to himself and yelling at KO'd senior agents. Seriously, dude, why are you still talking to yourself? We get it, you're in a scary mall, and you're mad that the government didn't know what to do at the time. We get it. Eggheads sometimes don't know everything, but do you really need to get mad at him? I think he's already suffered enough. Bro's laid out there like a spaghetti noodle. But eventually, Claus finds him, chasing him down a hallway and dragging him all the way back down it again. The camera cuts off, and it doesn't look so good for our guy here. I'm just gonna say it now, maybe it wasn't a good idea yelling at the dead Stera agent and attracting all their attention to yourself. A bunch of jumbled words appear on the screen, and it's unclear if they're jumbled or placed there on purpose, that being TK5MD2IAW. The soldier appears on screen. Then Claus appears behind him, and we see the soldier's face become a lack for a better word, screwed.
The pickup squad outside of Liberty waited for a total of 13 hours. Malik Summers was then presumed dead inside the mall. This footage confirms that assessment. We thought that these Steras were bad enough, but now we have this claw thing to potentially worry about in the future. Just like the Steras in the mall, gunfire seems to have little effect on the infected other than slowing it down a bit. Claw showed a terrifying amount of intelligence, seemingly playing with Malik like a cat with a mouse, only playing with its food. While Claws and Steras have wildly different physical appearances, they happen to share similar behaviors. Claws seems to take these traits to the next level. We are theorizing that these infected are connected in some way, with our best guess being that Claws is a result of an extremely rare scenario, a mutation of a special infected, in this case, being a mutation of a standard Stera. Keep in mind, these are just theories from limited information. For all we know, Claws could be an entirely new special infected class. That would not explain, however, why there was only one amidst the Stera hive inside the mall. Nothing in New World seems explainable. We will review all available footage several more times before creating contingencies.
And that is the end of episode 3. Before we move on to episode 4, I'm just going to do a quick recap of what we've learned in this video. We now have a name for this new special infected, Claws. We know that this new infected seems quite malicious based on the fact it basically played around with poor Malik like he was a little cat toy. For anyone in this situation, it would suck a lot, especially considering how Malik ended up at the end of this encounter. We also get to see where Rochelle is at this point, leaving our only unknown factor being Ellis. Hopefully we get answers to where he is. With that, let's jump on to episode 4. In episode 4, Special Infected, our regular intro actually has a few different shots this time, including our beloved Ellis, Nick, and Dr. Kingsman. It's good to see that Ellis is still alive and that Cedar did not donezo with him. I would have cried because Ellis is the best character in Left4Dead. And at the very end, we also see some of our beloved first game gang. Yep, that's right, we see Lewis, Zoe, and Francis. This is, however, with the exclusion of Bill. This is because in-game, he canonically meets a very terrible fate, being absolutely pummeled by tanks and hordes while turning on a generator in the Last Stand campaign. We get greeted by this Cedar-esque style tape, which, much like the ones we see for the Green Flu episode and the Safe Room episode, there's this cozy office-style music playing in the background as words appear on screen.
New World Infected. Created by Wage. Before we begin, after the Liberty incident, which caused a temporary pause on Operation Extermination, it became clear to both us and Cedar that information on New World Special Infected was crucial for the success of this operation. Since resuming Operation Extermination, we've had numerous encounters with more New World Special Infected. With the help of Cedar's research, we now have extended information on these, along with contingencies on how to handle an encounter with each infected. Please note, due to the nature of some infected on this list, some may have more information than others, and as always, information is subject to change as we learn even more about these infected. However, most information seems to be set in stone. Legacy Special Infected, LSI. Before we dive into New World Special Infected, NSI, we will give a brief explanation of the state of Legacy Special Infected. Legacy Special Infected are classes that were the most common during the initial outbreak. This includes the Hunter, Smoker, Boomer, Spitter, Jockey, Charger, Witch, and Tank. While these infected were extremely dangerous during the first few weeks of the outbreak, they have all nearly died out. Any encounter with an LSI is either with them being 1 foot in the grave dead, or fulfills the criteria to be a New World variant. Their mutations were not built to last due to the extreme stress they caused to the infected body. Standard LSI contingencies from the early days still work well for most encounters. This is made easier since most LSI are weak and frail. If you suspect you are dealing with a New World variant, follow the contingencies from their respective sections. New World variants exhibit many different behaviors and patterns compared to their early day counterparts and have adapted to the new environment. Following the wrong contingency may end up being the reason for your death.
Before I move on to the next bit of the video, I want to break this down for anyone who feels like this was a lot of information, because I felt the exact same way when I first watched this. Basically, these infected are the ones we see within the game, which is set within the initial 2 weeks of the outbreak. For those of you who don't know, the regular special infected include the Hunter, Smoker, Boomer, Spitter, Jockey, Charger, Witch, and Tank. It appears in this ARG that the infection has slowly broken down their bodies. As you can tell from their appearances, they're not exactly built to withstand what the infection makes them do for so long. For instance, the acid of the Spitter is basically breaking down her mouth, which we can see very clearly from the damage done to her face within the game model. Overall, if these infected are seen, they're either very close to dying, meaning they're very weak and unlike the massive threat to players they represent within the game, which often leads to a possible game over depending on which one you're up against. Or if they're healthy and alive, they're considered to be a new variant that has mutated to withstand the new conditions the affected have been put in.
After the encounter with the Whisperer in the lower levels, we continue to search through POIs of interest. We revisited the breach safe room and took a look inside to find anything worthy of note. We did discover a couple things. Artifact 1. Journal entries.
To save an ungodly amount of reading, I'm just going to give a quick summary to save everyone's time. This journal was found inside the safe room on the ground. The owner of the journal was named Winston Caden. He lived in the safe room with his wife, Amy Caden. The first entry was shown that resides towards the end of the journal was written on September 3rd. In this entry, Winston mentions how he hides from the armed forces of the US government, who have now made their way into Fairfield, Pennsylvania, afraid of being shot on sight. He mentions running low on medical supplies and needing to raid a pharmacy later. The next entry is shown to be 2 days later on September 5th, where he starts off with saying he heard someone outside calling for help. He mentions how his wife Amy tells him not to go any further with it because it could be a whisperer. He decides to agree with his wife, not wanting to waste the ammo, before he mentions how something is sleeping beneath them and he hopes this whisperer doesn't wake it up. Winston then mentions the armed soldiers again, saying how one of his friends told him they were killing both infected and carriers. For anyone who has forgotten, the carriers are basically asymptomatic holders of the pathogen, people who don't feel the side effects but can still pass it around to anyone they pass. He questions why Cedar is now killing carriers, bringing note to how they originally were against doing so. The next entry is merely only a day later, that being September 6th. The piece of paper we see in the background, presumably a journal entry, has a drawing of a safe room on it with the blood soaking the page's edges. I will read this one out now since it's only short. The meat wall is awake. We hear it wandering through the halls. It smells us. We then see footage of Winston turning around to look at Amy, who looks awfully frightful as well. In the background, we hear thudding. A tank bursts through the door and then a shot is heard, presumably from Amy trying to stop it. So now we know the meat wall spoken of at the beginning of the last journal entry was in fact a tank. This time it seems much stronger than our in-game OG counterpart, as it's now able to absolutely tear down safe room doors with no issue. That likely makes this a mutation of our tank from the initial outbreak, classing it to be a new world infected.
At least we now know what happened at that safe room. We also know for certain there are carriers in the city. those NW tanks don't tend to travel a lot, so make sure soldiers know about the possible danger in the area. We don't need another Riverside incident. It seems like these carriers really don't know anything about the state of the world. Good. The Whisperer NSI. Whisperers are special infected individuals who for the most part are able to maintain their sanity. Appearance-wise, they are most indistinguishable from a common infected, being able to fit and blend in as one. Even though Whisperers are able to keep their sanity, there are times where it slips from them. Many Whisperers become feral when they reach a certain point of hunger, doing whatever it takes to consume food. Known behavior of Whisperers when they reach their feral state is that they begin using their voice to lure vulnerable people into a sense of security and attacking those individuals when they least expect it. When they are in their sane state, they act just as human, provided their mental state hasn't decayed due to outside factors. This makes Whisperers as dangerous as, if not more than, carriers. While the infected are at least hostile towards carriers, Whisperers are infected themselves, so they are seen as one of them. Even when they are in their feral state, their hunting strategy can easily catch carriers and even us off guard. When a Whisperer is suspected to be in a sane state, the same protocols for carriers should be used. If you hear a call for help or a conversation in the distance that sounds even remotely off, Whisper protocol should be engaged. Locate the source of the sound and pretend you're falling for its manipulation. Once you are certain where the Whisperer is hiding, open fire to neutralize the threat. Even if the Whisperer tries to attack you, the danger of Whisperers is that they attack when your guard is low, being able to target vulnerable areas. There is no difference physically from a common infected. If you are expecting the attack, you will be fine. The Stera NSI. The Steras are an incredibly complicated infected, able to communicate with their own class and having social structures with one another, albeit primitive. Steras come in all shapes and sizes. A defining physical characteristic is one half of their body being distorted and having a distinct beaming eye on the side of their face, usually the undistorted half. Steras are known for their incredible speed, strength, and absurdly high pain tolerance. They are able to continue an assault through almost anything. Liberty, we have had a few more encounters with this infected, learning groundbreaking information on how to combat them without casualties. Steras have an instinct to stalk, even when not necessarily aggressive. They have 3 stalking stages. Passive stalking behavior. Not making an effort to conceal itself, most special infected acting passively are simply just curious or have just recently eaten. Any sort of aggression directed towards the special infected is heavily discouraged, as this can make them defensive. If you encounter a passive special infected, do not engage. Leave the area and report the sighting. Neutral stalking behavior. Making an effort to stick by cover and conceal itself is a common trait. Most special infected acting neutrally are either being careful or preparing for predatory behavior. Close vicinity is heavily discouraged. Prepare for a possible lethal engagement. Predatory stalking behavior. Making an active effort to conceal itself and stalk from the shadows. You are the active target. Lethal engagement may be imminent. Keep constant eye contact to possibly intimidate the Stera and attempt to make it out of the area. Close quarter combat with Steras is highly discouraged due to their heavy pain tolerance and limited strength. Even if you dump a whole mag into them, they would barely react, even if they die shortly after the encounter. Steras are typically found inside buildings as they are afraid of light and especially water. Even though water seems to do no physical damage to them, it greatly taxes them mentally. When in a hostile encounter with a Stera, making it outside of the building you are in is the easiest way to survive the ordeal. Shining flashlights, using any source of water, or using molotovs are the most effective ways of combating a Stera without endangering yourself.
After finishing the file on the Steras and covering all the information Cedar and Wage have on them so far, Claws, although glitchy and blurry, pops up on the screen. So I will do my best to attempt to read this file, or whatever it is.
Claws NA. Claws is an infected we have only seen at the Liberty Mall Cedar Hive, which was months ago. We have no idea what this thing is, and we hope it was only a one-off mutation. Many theories have speculated that it is some type variant of a Stera, while others theorize that this is an LSI New World variant of the Witch or another LSI. All we know is that it was a major threat, and the combined bombing of the mall was able to put it down. We have no contingencies for this infection.
So from this, we know that our much-hated Claws infected remains a mystery, and hopefully possibly a one-off. It is a dangerous threat to the point that it took a whole bomb to stop one. A single Claws took one whole bomb to kill it, and that's if it even did it, because we still don't have any confirmation on that, because I don't trust Cedar as far as I can throw it, and I have noodle arms. Don't be fooled. I have no strength in those. But anyways, after this we move on swiftly to the New World tank. NW tank variant. Meat Wall LSI. Tanks were the most dangerous infected during the early weeks of the outbreak, and in New World, tank variants can be equally as dangerous. NW tanks are a variant of tank that is a much lower temper, being able to think more clearly and having self-preservation instincts. Many NW tanks hibernate for long periods of time in order to conserve energy due to the size of their body. Due to the size of their body, carriers have referred to these tanks as meat walls because they cover entire hallways while hibernating, acting as a motionless wall. We will use this name for the rest of this section. When meat walls are disturbed from their slumber, they search for the cause of the noise in order to find their next meal. These creatures try and make as few necessary movements as possible in order to preserve as much energy as they can. When finding a source of food but feel like they are using more energy than they will gain in return, even if they are halfway through an attack, they will stop their assault. This is one of the only infected that will actively eat other infected as a source of energy if desperate enough. So from this segment of the tank, it's pretty much the same as it used to be, only now we know that tanks hibernate and try not to move as much. However, they are still just as much of a threat and as dangerous, if not more so, when they are hungry. We move on from this segment to another one based on our survivors. Status of the Memorial Bridge carriers. Nicholas Murphy is currently at Fairfield's home base, watching everything units have recovered so far about the start of the infection in that city. He is seeing if he can learn more about the Whisperer Sebastian Kingsman before his interrogation sometime next week. After the whole Liberty incident, Rochelle Eitz has continued working as head of communications of Operation Extermination. Recently, she has been transported to New World to assist in a situation going on in Milltown, Mississippi. Wendell Jones recently travelled to Switzerland to be a part of Cedar and Wage's diplomatic meetings. Proper safety measures were taken. He will be travelling back down to the Caribbean to continue training new recruits and help planning and creating new contingencies. Ellis Gilman just finished recovering from his time at Riverside. Around the time of the Liberty incident, Unit 02 in Riverside, Pennsylvania was clearing out an Eastern Waterworks drainage system. Everything was going smoothly until communication was lost with a small group that went deeper inside the drainage system. We get a shot of Ellis walking down the drainage system, seeing that his colleagues have now had their lives recently ended. He continues looking around, hearing a grumbling in the distance, the menacing noise drawing his attention immediately. We then see shots of what appears to be a tank, otherwise called a meat wall. Another common infected can be heard jittering in the distance before looking somewhat worried. This stops Ellis from shooting it as he questions himself on what on earth is going on, before he turns back around to see the tank is staring directly at him. The tank begins running at Ellis as he begins his full assault, emptying his gun out on the infected as it runs towards him. The tank picks up a common infected and throws it against him, knocking him down and making him incapacitated. The tank then picks him up in this moment, and with quick thinking, Ellis takes his pocket knife and lunges it into the tank, but this does not stop it. Its reaction instead being to throw Ellis towards the nearest wall. The last thing we see is common infected running towards Ellis as he brings his fists up to fight.
When other members of the unit reached Gilman, he was surrounded by a horde of common infected with no weapons. He was found unresponsive and in a critical state. When he regained consciousness, he said a meatball was responsible for the deaths of the group and his injuries. The meatball was eventually dealt with some time later, and Gilman has now fully recovered from his injuries. Gilman has been reassigned to Fairfield.
That is the end of episode 4 season 2, which marks the conclusion of our second season overall. From this, we know the whereabouts, locations, and the tasks of our beloved survivors. And we also have all the information we could possibly want and need regarding the New World Special Infected. But I'm not going to end the video here. If you'd seen the first part of my analysis of this ARG, you'll realise I did leave out 2 videos last time, Claws and Reassign. Now, I'm not going to go over Claws because it basically tells the same information we already know about Claws and the Steras, but Reassign has some new information, so I will read the text in that video starting now.
Information regarding reassigned location Newberg. Newberg was one of the major cities that was infected earlier into the green flu outbreak. This was the first ever city that was bombed to potentially slow down the spread of the virus. The city was ablaze for weeks, being nicknamed the Burning City, as ash fell from the sky like snow and the city irradiated orange from a distance. After all was said and done, it became a burned husk of the city it once was, left to rot with the rest of the USA. After resuming Operation Extermination, Newberg was a city that was on our list to begin clearing out. After arrival, Newberg is a city like none we have ever encountered before. Experienced personnel are needed. Carriers such as Nicholas Murphy will be beneficial to this mission. He excels at not only reasoning with other carriers in New World, but also terminating New World infected. Base of operations and patrol routes have already been set up and used for weeks now. We'll be waiting.
That is the end of the reassign video, leaving us at a somewhat close for now on this ARG. So now we get into my favourite part of the video, which is recap time. As we know, Season 2 mostly resides in the 2015 part of the timeline, 5 years after the initial outbreak. Here is what we've learned so far. We now have a name for our new Special Infected Claws, and we know that it is the biggest threat with no residing information on it. We know what happened to our Left4Dead 2 gang, and that they are mostly separated but all alive and doing their respective work to help out the government. Our favourite and only known doctor, Sebastian Kingsman, has become a whisperer, after the events that happened in Fairfield, Pennsylvania in 2009, the beginning of the initial outbreak. We have gotten a few hints that Zoe, Lewis, and Francis will soon be added to the fray of the story. We've received a bunch of facts about the new Special Infected, both new and old. So, with that, let's roll out into the outro. Hello everybody, thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I hope you all have been enjoying it so far. If you have, make sure to like and subscribe to watch more of this content and to join the silly dillies. Also, make sure to comment down below. I really was not expecting as much attention on the last video I got, which was the first part of this ARG analysis. I really do appreciate it. Like, every comment, every view, every single new subscriber. We've now reached 180, so I was planning on doing a 100 subscriber special, but you guys kind of exceeded past that point, so I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm probably gonna wait till 200 subscribers to do a special video. If you guys have any recommendations on what you'd like that to be, please comment them down below. Also, please continue commenting any constructive criticism you may have, since I'm relatively new to this editing style and editing videos in general. I mean, I know my channel's been up for a couple months now, but I'm still really new to it, so I do appreciate any constructive criticism you guys may have, and I really appreciate all of the comments, likes, and views we've had in the last video. Trust me, I've been so excited the entire time checking my channel and just seeing it going up and up and up while I've been making this video. Now, this video may be a little bit late in today. That's just because I wanted to make sure it looked decent and that it was decent and there were no errors with it, and I've made sure to hopefully try and turn myself up on the thing, so hopefully you guys can hear me. I am hoping you guys can. If you can't, please let me know down below. My volume settings on my computer are much different to mobile users, so I would really like to know if that is the case. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe again. I will see you guys all in the next video. I love you all so much. Mwah! Stay amazing, and goodbye.